It's not uncommon at all to have couples that come into the divorce mediation process where one of them has very strong feelings about wanting there to be a 50-50 shared parenting time arrangement. And there are times when both parties come in and they both have talked in advance and they feel that a 50-50 shared parenting time agreement is in the best interest of their children. The purpose of this video segment is not to discourage or in any way talk anybody out of that, but to make sure that they understand what a true 50-50 parenting time arrangement means and some of the potential hazards that are often going to come up that they didn't foresee when they made that agreement. Statistically, only about 2% of the time are there any couples that have a 50-50 parenting time arrangement where it's truly 50% of the time with each parent. The reason for that is although couples may have agreed to that in their mediation, or if they put their agreement together themselves, they find that as time goes on, there are certain things that they did not account for which require a change and that they are deviating from their 50-50 custody arrangement most of the time. Those conditions usually first have to do with the logistical considerations. When a party is considering having a 50-50 shared parenting time, they need to be mindful of the importance of living close enough to each other that the travel time is going to be less than 20 minutes. 15 to 20 minutes, any more than that, is going to mean that you are going to be on the road traveling a lot with your child, and that's not a good use of time, and it can be very cumbersome and ultimately can be expensive as well. I'm always amazed at people that come in and wish to have a joint physical custody arrangement, and they live in different states. I don't understand what they were thinking in terms of, unless they were planning on having the child live 6 months out of the year with each parent. Of course, in those environments, there's not going to be a lot of travel time, but for obvious reasons, that can be disruptive to a child and having to leave in the middle of a school year. Not to mention the parent that doesn't see the child, so going 6 months without seeing your child can be very difficult. So the first consideration is always logistical. The second consideration that couples oftentimes overlook after they have had joint physical custody is the overall impact it's going to have on their own schedules. If you don't have the ability from a time aspect to actually have your children 50% of the time, then it doesn't make sense to negotiate a parenting time arrangement where you're going to have to do that. If you work full-time, if your work schedule means that you're going to have to put your child in daycare or have a third party taking care of the child during your 50% time, then, and especially if the other parent is able to take them, if that were to ever be challenged with a judge is always going to allow a parent that has the ability logistically to have that time with the kids to have that time before they would allow you to have 50-50 and put that child into daycare or have a third party care for them. The third consideration that couples overlook, and that is probably the biggest consideration, is what is in the best interest of the child. There are many things that have to be looked at when determining what's in the best interest of the child. Obviously, their age. A child that is 1 year old, and that is still breastfeeding that's not a good candidate for a shared parenting plan of 50-50 for obvious reasons. We have found that when kids get to be about 12 or 13 years old, something happens where they don't want to hang out with either parent. I have 6 children of my own, and they stop wanting to hang out with me at about that age, and it has nothing to do with me being a good or bad parent. It means that their friends are more important. That may be a consideration to look at. And as you are deciding whether or not 50-50 is in their best interest, consider the emotional impact it may have. Be open to experimenting with other possibilities if 50-50 does not work. I'm always amazed at when I ask couples, are you 100% sure that 50-50 is in the best interest of your child? And most of the time I get a response back from mom and dad that is, absolutely, I am 100% sure that is in their best interest. Well, the right answer is, I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. And saying that you're willing to try 50-50 and that you have enough courage to say, if it doesn't work, then I won't stick a square peg in a round hole, is truly doing what's in the best interest of your child. Having a mediator understand that that's what you want to do is important. And that's something you should express to your mediator, because your mediator can help you build an agreement where an experiment is absolutely appropriate, but that there are boundaries that are put in place that both parties agree to, that if that experiment proves that the child is adversely affected. For instance, if you see their grades slipping, if you see them exhibiting negative behaviors, if they're not getting a lot of sleep, if the school counselor approaches you and your child is struggling one way or another socially, those may all be things that you would say, we need to alter the 50-50 shared parenting plan. And a good mediator can help you figure out how to alter that, what the boundaries that could be in place that are balanced so that both parties get a voice in determining what that new altered parenting plan would be. And all of these modifications and adjustments can be done without having to go back to a judge and get a new ruling, which can be very, very expensive. So hopefully that will open your mind a little bit, get you to be willing to consider the absolute essential need to think through a 50-50 shared parenting time agreement, and also not think that if one party happens to have the child more than the other, that it has anything to do with a good parent or a bad parent. You decided to get a divorce. Don't impose that decision and the negative consequences of your need to be with that child on your child. Be open to the possibility that it's going to take some sacrifice and that it's going to require some courage for both of you to be able to do what's in their best interest, in addition to factoring in the logistical considerations that we spoke of. Hopefully that helps.